Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving headfirst into a topic that's both fascinating and a little unnerving. Cybersecurity. But we're not just talking about protecting your emails and online banking here. This is about the stuff that keeps our lights on, our water running, our entire society functioning.
Yeah, it's about critical infrastructure. Think power grids, water systems, transportation networks, the backbone of modern society. And the thing is, these systems are more interconnected and therefore more vulnerable than ever before.
And to really get a handle on this, we've dug into a whole stack of sources, from industry standards and research papers to legal analyses. It's eye-opening, to say the least. Like, one thing that really struck me is just how globally interconnected everything is these days. Energy grids spanning continents, transportation systems managed by algorithms, even, our space-based communication networks.
Right. It's incredible on the one hand, but it also creates this massive attack surface.
Yeah.
Think about the NotPetya attack back in 2017, which was initially aimed at Ukraine. It ended up crippling businesses around the world. I remember that. Wasn't it initially thought to be ransomware?
It was disguised as ransomware, but it quickly became clear that disruption was the real goal. Shipping giants like Maersk had to halt operations, pharmaceutical production lines went offline, even the monitoring systems at Chernobyl were disrupted.
Chernobyl. Wow. Okay, that really drives home the potential global impact. So we're not just talking about stolen data or financial losses, but potential chaos on a massive scale.
Absolutely. And the scary part is, you don't need a nation-state's resources to pull off these attacks anymore. The tools and knowledge, they're more accessible than ever, which means more players, more motives, more potential for things to go wrong.
It's like a digital Wild West out there. Everyone from your lone wolf hackers to organized crime syndicates. And yeah, of course, nation states are all in the mix. So where do we even begin? I mean, is hiding under a rock an option?
Tempting, right. But seriously, understanding the risks is the first step to mitigating them. And thankfully, we've got some pretty compelling real-world examples, actual events with serious consequences that can teach us a lot.
Well, let's hear them then. Give us the highlights. What are some of the most illustrative cases?
The 2014 German steel mill attack is a perfect example. It's a stark reminder that even seemingly small vulnerabilities can have disastrous consequences.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happened?
The attackers got into the steel mill's network through, get this, a phishing email.
No way. A phishing email took down an entire steel mill.
It bypassed their control systems, overheated a blast furnace, and caused significant physical damage. They basically hacked the physical world with a few clicks.
That is terrifying. So we're not just talking about virtual threats anymore, but real-world damage and disruption. It's a whole new level of vulnerability.
Exactly. And then there's the 2016 cyber attack on Saudi Aramco, the Saudi Arabian oil company. Thousands of computers were wiped clean, basically halting production for days.
Okay, that one sounds like something out of a spy thriller. So
Yeah.
what were the motives behind these attacks? Data theft, disruption, something else entirely.
Well, that's the thing. The motives can be incredibly diverse. Sometimes it's about financial gain, like ransomware attacks. Other times, it's espionage, stealing intellectual property or government secrets. And then there are cases where it seems like pure disruption is the goal. Sowing chaos, undermining trust in institutions.
So with motives all over the map like that, how do we even start to defend against something so, I don't know, unpredictable?
Well, that's where understanding the concept of risk assessment becomes really crucial.
Okay, risk assessment doesn't sound quite as exciting as, say, digital espionage, but I'm all ears.
It's actually a lot more engaging than it might sound at first. Think of it as like a strategic game. You're identifying vulnerabilities, figuring out the odds of an attack, and then looking at the potential fallout if things go south.
All right, I'm picturing a game board now. Give me a real-world example. What are we talking about here?
Take a water treatment plant, right? We could
Okay.
assess the risk of, say, a cyber attack targeting the control systems, which could disrupt the water supply for, like, an entire city.
Okay, now that got my attention. Water's kind of important.
Exactly. So we'd look at things like how strong their security systems are, any potential weak points an attacker might target, and then what happens if the water supply is contaminated or cut off. It's about thinking several steps ahead, just like a game of chess, except the stakes are way higher.
Makes sense. And just like in chess, you need to understand your opponent,
Right.
figure out their game plan.
Exactly. Are they after money? Do they want to cause mayhem? Or is it about stealing sensitive information? The more we understand their goals, the better we can anticipate their moves and, of course, build those defenses.
It's a constantly moving target, though, isn't it? As soon as we figure out how to block one type of attack, something new pops up.
That's the challenge, for sure. And that's where it gets even more interesting, because we're not just battling current threats. We've got to anticipate future ones, especially as technology keeps evolving at such a rapid pace.
Well, you said it, evolving technology. We can't ignore the elephant in the room. Things like AI, smart cities. On the one hand, they hold incredible promise, but they also open up a whole Pandora's box of vulnerabilities, don't they?
A double-edged sword, for sure. Imagine a city, right, where everything is interconnected: traffic lights, the power grid, hospitals, even garbage collection, all managed by algorithms.
Sounds amazing from an efficiency standpoint.
It is, but what if a hacker gets control of that system?
Okay, yeah, not so amazing anymore. We're talking gridlock, blackouts. Actually, I don't even want to think about the possibilities.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Think about AI-powered medical devices, self-driving cars, even remote surgery. The possibilities are incredible, but the potential risks are just as huge.
So, how do we even wrap our heads around securing these systems when the technology is changing so rapidly?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a huge challenge. I think a big part of it comes down to a shift in mindset. We've got to move from simply reacting to threats to actively anticipating them. It's about building security into these systems from the ground up, designing with security in mind from day one.
So it's not just about having the best firewall or antivirus software anymore. It's got to be a more comprehensive approach, right? Taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And a critical part of that is recognizing how important human behavior is. I mean, you can have the most sophisticated security measures in place, but all it takes is one wrong click on a phishing email, one weak password, and it all falls apart.
Oh man, tell me about it. The human element, it's often considered the weakest link in the chain, right? The human factor, we can't forget about that. But before we get too deep into that, we've covered a lot of ground here. Phishing scams, nation-state attacks, the risks that come with, like, super interconnected smart cities. I mean, it's a lot to take in. Maybe we can bring it back down to earth for a minute.
I agree. It can definitely feel overwhelming. But the good news is that even small steps can make a big difference in boosting your cybersecurity.
Okay, so give me the lowdown. What's
Yes.
one thing our listeners can do today to, up their cybersecurity game?
Honestly, start with good password hygiene.
Really? That's it?
You'd be surprised how many people still use password 123 or something equally simple for all their accounts.
Okay, guilty as charged, though I've upped my password game since then. But what's the big deal about using the same password for multiple accounts anyway?
Think about it like this. If someone finds the key to your front door, are they going to just try that one door and give up? Or are they going to see if it also unlocks your car, your office, your mailbox?
Okay, point taken. Strong, unique passwords are a must. What else? Besides, moving off the grid and becoming a hermit, which at this point isn't sounding so bad.
Well, short of that, always be wary of any suspicious emails or messages, especially those urging you to click links or download attachments. Those are classic phishing tactics designed to get their hands on your personal information.
It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right?
Exactly. And on that note, never underestimate those pesky software updates. I know they can be annoying, but they're often patching up security holes that attackers could exploit.
So keeping your software updated is kind of like wearing a bulletproof vest in the digital world.
That's a good way to put it.
But these are all things we can do as individuals. What about the big picture? How do we make our societies more resilient to these large-scale threats?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. We're seeing more and more collaboration between governments, industry leaders, and of course, cybersecurity experts to share information, develop those best practices, because let's face it, no one can tackle this alone.
It really does take a village, or in this case, a global village, I guess.
Yeah. Precisely. And education is key. We need to be teaching cybersecurity in schools, offering training programs for employees, and really just raising public awareness about online risks across the board.
So it's about creating a culture of cybersecurity from the ground up, where everyone understands the stakes and their role to play in making the digital world a safer place for everyone.
Exactly. Because here's the thing. Our reliance on technology is only going to increase in the years to come.
And with that comes a responsibility to understand and mitigate the risks. So as we wrap up this episode, here's a final thought for you to consider. Imagine, just for a moment, that a major cyber attack hits your city tomorrow. What systems would be affected? How would your life be disrupted?
It's a question worth thinking about. And more importantly, what steps can you take today to be prepared? Because knowledge is power. When it comes to cybersecurity, A little awareness can go a long way.
Well said. We hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the challenges and opportunities ahead in our increasingly interconnected world. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.